The Halloween Stranger. It was Halloween night, and the small town of Gravesend Creek was buzzing with its usual excitement. Carved pumpkins flickered on porches, skeletons dangled from trees, and kids in costumes darted between houses, eagerly filling their vents with candy. But beneath the festive atmosphere, there was an unspoken rule. When the clock struck midnight, you stayed inside. Every resident knew the legend of the Halloween Stranger, a mysterious figure who supposedly appeared in the dead of night, taking those who lingered too long in the darkness. Lila, a high school senior, had heard the stories since she was a child, but like most kids her age, she didn't believe them. Just another small-town ghost story, she would say with a laugh whenever her younger brother asked if it was real. This year, her parents were out of town, so she decided to host a Halloween party, inviting over some close friends. After all, what better night to prove there was no such thing as the Halloween Stranger? The party had gone off without a hitch. Costumed guests packed into her house, music blasted through the speakers, and the laughter of her friends filled the air. But as the night wore on, the crowd thinned. By 11:30, only her closest friends remained, Jack, Emma, and Tom. They sat on the couch, the glow from the jack-o'-lanterns casting dancing shadows on the walls. Jack stretched and grinned. "What do you say we take a walk, see if anyone's still out trick-or-treating?" Lila hesitated. The streets were nearly empty now, and the uneasy feeling she had earlier returned. "I don't know, Jack," she said slowly. "It's getting pretty late." "Come on, Lila, you don't actually believe in the Halloween Stranger, do you?" Jack teased, nudging her. Emma and Tom chuckled nervously, but they were on edge too. "I don't," she lied, standing up. "Let's go." They grabbed their jackets and stepped outside into the chilly October air. The once lively streets of Hallows Creek were now deserted. The wind howled softly, making the trees rustle as if something unseen was watching. Lila shivered, but kept walking, her footsteps echoing unnervingly against the pavement. The group wandered through the neighborhood, trying to shake off the growing sense of dread. Houses once brightly lit for trick-or-treaters were now dark. Even the jack-o'-lanterns seemed to burn lower, their carved faces twisted in grotesque grins. A light fog had started rolling in from the nearby woods, blanketing the streets in an eerie silence. "Maybe we should head back," Emma suggested, her voice barely above a whisper. Before anyone could respond, Tom stopped dead in his tracks. "Guys, who's that?" Up ahead, a figure stood beneath the flickering glow of a street lamp. He was tall, too tall, and wore a long black coat that seemed to blend into the shadows. His face was obscured by the brim of a wide hat, and he didn't move. Just stood there, staring. "Probably just some guy," Jack said, though his voice faltered. "Someone in costume, trying to freak us out." The figure didn't move. The lamp above him flickered once, twice, then went out, leaving him standing in darkness. Lila's breath caught in her throat. Something about the man didn't feel right. He was too still, too quiet. "We should go," she said, taking a step back. The figure took a step forward. "Run," Tom shouted, grabbing Emma's hand. They bolted down the street, their footsteps pounding in sync with their racing hearts. Jack and Lila followed, but no matter how fast they ran, it felt like the shadows were closing in, as if the very night itself was reaching out to pull them back. Lila glanced over her shoulder, expecting to see the figure in the distance, but he was gone. Relief washed over her for a moment, until she turned back and saw him standing directly in front of her, blocking their path. His face was now fully visible in the faint moonlight. His skin was pale, almost translucent, stretched taut over sharp angular bones. His eyes were deep, sunken hollows, glowing faintly like dying embers. A twisted grin spread across his face, revealing unnaturally sharp teeth. Layla's blood ran cold. "What do you want?" she stammered. He didn't respond. Instead, he moved closer, his long bony fingers stretching toward her. She tried to scream, but no sound came out. The air around her felt heavy, as if it had thickened into something almost solid, making it impossible to move. Her friend screamed her name, but it sounded distant, muffled, like she was hearing it through water. The figure's fingers brushed her arm, and the moment they made contact, a searing cold shot through her body. The world around her spun, the streetlights dimming, her vision narrowing until there was nothing but blackness. When Lila woke up, she was lying in the middle of the street, Her head throbbed, and her clothes were damp from the cold pavement. Slowly, she pushed herself up, blinking to clear her vision. Her heart hammered in her chest as she looked around. The street was empty. "Jack, Emma, Tom," she called out, her voice weak and shaky. But there was no response. Panic set in. She stumbled back to her house, desperately pounding on the door, but no one answered. The house was dark and silent, as if the party had never happened. Terrified, Lila ran to Emma's house, then Jack's, then Tom's, but no one had seen them. It was as if they had simply vanished into thin air. The police searched the town for days, but there was no trace of them, no evidence that they had ever been there that night. Lila told them about the stranger, about the figure that had appeared in the street, but no one believed her. They thought it was a hallucination, a result of trauma. But Lila knew what she had seen, and deep down, she knew that her friends were still out there, trapped in the darkness, wherever the stranger had taken them. Now, every day, Lila stays locked inside, terrified of what might be waiting just beyond the door. She knows the stranger is still out there, waiting for the next group of curious souls to step out into the night after midnight. And in the quiet of her room, she can sometimes hear faint whispers, like the voices of her friends, calling out to her from somewhere far away, forever lost.